Hello and welcome to Watershed Watching Kentucky's introductory training. This is our mission statement. Watershed Watching Kentucky is a statewide, nonprofit, citizen scientist water monitoring program that began in 1997. A watershed is described as the land area that drains to a common point. This includes groundwater and surface water. Our goal is to get people into the real world to see firsthand the conditions of the streams. Our volunteers help to monitor waterways that may not have been assessed by the Kentucky Division of Water or other agencies. This map shows green lines for streams that are fully supporting, yellow for partially supporting, and the red lines are streams that have no support at all. However, the blue lines are streams that have not been assessed by the Kentucky Division of Water or other agencies. That is where our volunteers come into play. They step up and they sample on streams that have not been assessed by our state agencies. Watershed Watching Kentucky is a volunteer water monitoring program that began in 1997. Since our program is volunteer-based, this slide shows how many volunteers it takes to keep everything running smoothly. Our volunteer samplers are at the top of this chart. We then have volunteers who step up and serve as area coordinators or runners. This position is very important since they help to ensure that samples are collected in their area and delivered to the lab. We then have a sampling event coordinator. This individual will make contact with the volunteers about upcoming events, help them to get registered, mail out sampling packets. They also work with our lab managers to set up our drop-off times and dates for our sampling events. Our science advisors work to make sure that our data is scientifically valid and useful. Each Watershed Watch basin has a board of directors or steering committee. They are responsible for making decisions in their local basin. And the last is the Watershed Watching Kentucky State Board of Directors. This board has a representative from each of our founding partners, the Kentucky Division of Water, Sierra Club, and the Kentucky Waterways Alliance, as well as a representative from each of our Watershed Watch basins. Their goal is to continue to find funding to keep our citizen monitoring and our lake monitoring programs operating, as well as the other programs that Watershed Watch has to offer. They also look to find funding to help support the Watershed Watch basins. We have two training workshops. The first one is the Introduction to Watershed Watch, or Phase 1. That is what you are learning now. You will learn about the organization and how to collect your field chemistry and grab sample. The Advanced Workshop, or Phase 2, will teach you more about the macroinvertebrates that live in the stream and how the surrounding area is impacting our stream. Volunteers will receive an email asking if they are going to participate in a sampling event. You can go online by clicking the link in this slide and register for all three events, or you can reply to the email and ask the sampling event coordinator to register you. Once you're trained as a Watershed Watch volunteer, you will receive a volunteer ID card, which will have your associate ID number and a basin code. When you go online, you can enter the associate ID number and basin code and click Go, and all of the sampling events will come up on a page. You can register for all of the sampling events at one time. If you have already registered, then the box will be grayed out, showing that you have already previously registered. If you have responded that you plan to sample, you will receive your sampling packet in the mail or from your area coordinator 7 to 10 days prior to a sampling event. Open it upon receipt to make sure that you have everything. If your bottle is damaged, this gives us time to get you another bottle before the sampling event. Watershed Watch in Kentucky samples for E. coli 3 times a year. Our sampling weekends fall the second weekend in May, July, and September. If the dates are different for your basin, then you will be notified. Your basin may also collect for nutrients in the fall, heavy metals, or turbidity. The instructions will give you the information that you need. The data that you collect belongs to you, the sampler. You can use your sampling results to help in personal decision making. You may choose to use the data to approach your local government about the findings. We have many county officials that provide funding to the Watershed Watch in their area to ensure that sampling continues in their county. Volunteers may join forces with other volunteers to address water quality concerns in their area and apply for grant funding, watershed planning, assessment screening, as well as scientific research. We ask all of our volunteers to complete a recertification every 3 years. This is to ensure that you are up to date with our methods, and once they receive the recertification, they will also receive their replacement chemicals for the dissolved oxygen and pH kits. You will need to decide where you want to sample. Watershed Watch in Kentucky has a list of previously sampled sites that can be sent to you via email, so you can look and see if you would like to reactivate a sampling site, or you may already have a sampling site in mind. Remember that it needs to be at least knee-deep, and you will need to have easy access to it. For new volunteers, I recommend not taking more than 2 sampling sites on until you're more comfortable doing the sampling. If you have to cross private property, you will need to get permission from the landowner. If you choose a new sampling site, the information Watershed Watch will need from you is the stream name and county, as well as a good description. The best way to give a description is like giving directions on how to get to a specific location, like your home. This will make it easier to get the latitude and longitude on Google Earth. If you have the ability to collect the latitude and longitude, Watershed Watch in Kentucky needs it in decimal degrees. My information is on the bottom of this slide that you can email me or call me, and I will help you on site information. We're going to discuss field chemistry now. We have standard operating procedures, or SOPs, for all of our training. You can find them on our website at kywater.org. When you are trained, you will receive this condensed version, which is little flip booklets. The equipment that you will receive after you're trained is loaned to you as long as you are active with the Watershed Watch program. If for some reason you should quit or leave the program, it is your responsibility to make sure that you return that equipment back to the Watershed Watch basin. If you're unsure of who to return it to, you can contact me in the Watershed Watch office, and I will help you to find someone in your area where you can return that equipment. Since we work off of grant funding, we can take the equipment that a volunteer has used, clean it up, and refurbish it for our next volunteer. You will need to purchase distilled water. A gallon. It costs less than $1 and will last you a long time. You will need this when you are to clean your field chemistry equipment with. If you have more than one sampling site, you will need to be able to do this out in the field to prevent cross-contamination. Waste containers are used to dispose of the field chemistry waste chemicals that you will use when performing your field chemistry test on the day of sampling. This is also where you will dispose of any used distilled water when rinsing your field chemistry equipment off in the field. Please get in the habit of rinsing these containers after each sampling event. The contents can be flushed down a toilet that is connected to a wastewater sewage treatment plant. If you have a septic tank, please do not do this. It could cause damage to your system. The equipment needs to be stored in a climate-controlled area, not in the trunk of your car or in your garage. When you're trained and you receive your equipment, it comes in a white dish pan. That's the best place to keep your field chemistry equipment. Simply take that pan, slide it into a plastic bag, and place it into an interior closet. This way it's out of the reach of young children and pets. You have enough chemicals in your pH and dissolved oxygen kit to do 50 field chemistry tests. You can use your test kits to educate others on what you're doing. You may choose to collect field chemistry in the months that we do not sample. On our website, kywater.org, there is a monthly monitoring form. Simply fill it out, make sure that your site number is on it, and the date. You can fill that out and send it to me at the Water Watch office, and I will upload those results into the KGS data portal. Should you need replacement batteries for your conductivity meter, or maybe some of your equipment is not functioning properly, contact me and let me know so that we can make sure that you have the equipment that you need to sample. Chemical safety, the dissolved oxygen has an acid that is used. The pH reagent is flammable, so please do not smoke when you are doing the test. Our MSDS sheets can be found on our website at kywater.org. You will receive a pair of vinyl gloves for each sampling site that you have in your sampling packet. The gloves are not only to protect you, but they're also to protect your sample. Eye protection can be in the way of reading glasses or sunglasses, but we do ask that you please wear something on your eyes to protect your eyes when doing the field chemistry test. Basic skills needed: how to count to 15, the ability to tell the difference in color. If you're colorblind, you will need someone to help you when you're doing the field chemistry, how to follow instructions, and the ability to fill a bottle. The chain of custody is a ticket or a record that stays with your sample until your sample is relinquished to a lab or to another runner. Field observations, the first one is flow rate. It is a 0 to 5-point scale, and as you can see on here, there's a few descriptions, 0 being dry, 5 being flooded. There are 3 flow conditions that we will ask you not to collect a grab sample. Dry, meaning there's no water in your stream. Ponded means still stagnant water, no connecting flow. And of course 5 being flooded. If any of these flow conditions are present when you go out to sample, simply mark on your chain of custody form the flow rate, and you can either mail that chain of custody form in to the Water Watch office. My information is on the bottom of your chain of custody form. If you have another sample that you are collecting at another site, you can turn this chain of custody form in with the other one to your runner or to a lab. That way we will know why a sample was not collected at that time. The second of the field observations is 48-hour rainfall. You can use a rain gauge, your local paper or weather channel, or any of these websites that are listed on this slide. Turbidity is the final of the field observations. It's a 0 to 3-point scale. It's simply asking how clear is the water. Dissolved oxygen is necessary for aquatic life, the same as it is for human life. Faster moving cold water holds more oxygen than slow moving warmer water. We ask our volunteers to do their chemistry and collect their samples early in the day. Once the sun rises, the dissolved oxygen begins to drop. Here are a few examples of impacts that can impair dissolved oxygen. Sewer overflows, runoff from fields. You also have chemical spills that can cause the oxygen to drop, which can result in a fish kill. The bottom one is a lack of riparian or streamside plants like trees that provide shade. That stream will start heating up very quickly once the sun rises. We like to see dissolved oxygen to be between 6 and above. When the dissolved oxygen is low, it can cause stressful conditions as well as fish kills. pH is a measurement that shows the acidity or alkalinity of a liquid. These can cause damage to plants, animals, and humans. Impacts to pH are industry emissions, urban street runoff, acid mine drainage. Auto exhaust can contribute to acid rain and leave deposits on the ground that are carried to the streams by runoff. Also, decaying matter from organic material. The Kentucky Surface Water Standard is between 6 and 9. Conductivity is measurement of dissolved solids such as nutrients, metals, or other compounds in the water. Sources that can impact conductivity: parking lot runoff of salts and other de-icing agents into the waterways, mining runoff, industry, and acid mine drainage. The higher the number, the poorer the water quality. Temperature is collected in Celsius degrees. Remember, the higher the temperature, the lower the dissolved oxygen, which can lead to absence or loss of aquatic life. Sources that can contribute to high temperatures can be from power plant discharge of water to cool the boilers, no tree canopy or plants to offer shade, heat from parking lots and roadways. When the rain is carried into the streams, the heat is carried with it. On the day of sampling, you will arrive at your stream, enter the stream at a downstream location, and walk upstream. That way anything that may be kicking up underneath of your feet is flowing behind you. You will perform your field chemistry and your field observations first. Remember, you will collect your sample, your grab sample, and do your chemistry and observations at the same location each time. Just a little below where you're going to collect your grab sample is where you will do your chemistry and your field observations. The last thing you will do is fill up your grab sample bottle. If for some reason the location changes, such as maybe you collect bankside instead of midstream, you will record that on your chain of custody form. We will have a hands-on training with your equipment once you complete the introductory online training. However, the more you practice with your equipment, the more at ease you will be when you go out to sample the first time. You have enough chemicals to collect field observations and field chemistry monthly. On our website at kywater.org, go to the Resources tab, then Workshop Forms, and you will see a monthly monitoring forum. Record your data and mail or email that information back to the Water Watch office. Our information is on the bottom, and I will make sure that that is recorded in the KGS data portal. You can also demonstrate to others what you are doing. Take your testing equipment with you if you go on vacation. Maybe if you're out fishing or boating in another location, take your testing equipment with you and check and see what the chemistry is at that location as well. At one of the 3 scheduled sampling events, we ask our volunteers to take a photograph of their sampling site. So when you arrive on the day of sampling, before you do your field chemistry or collect your grab sample, while you're standing in the stream at your sampling point, we want you to take your cell phone and take a photograph upstream. If you've got any recognizable landmarks, a road or a bridge, anything like that, try to pull that into your photo and save the photograph in your phone. We're currently finalizing an app that will allow you to upload your photograph using the COC ID number on your chain of custody form. This way your photograph will show on the KGS data portal along with your sampling data and your field chemistry. It's a good idea to check your sampling site coordinates at least once to make sure that we have the correct latitude and longitude for your sampling site. You'll go to the KGS data portal, which the link is right here in this slide. You will enter your site number in the search box. Once the site results are showing, you will then click on the site search box again that's directly above it, and then click Map. It will show the place that your site is located. If you click the little yellow pin, it will give you more information like the latitude and longitude. You can also switch the base map to show like a topo map or aerial map, things like that, if you need a better picture. But let us know if the information is incorrect so that we can fix it in the data portal. Now we're going to talk about grab sample. So now that you've collected your field chemistry, your field observations, and you've taken a photograph of your sampling site, it's now time to collect what we call a grab sample. For E. coli, your bottle is sterile, so please do not rinse the bottle. In some cases, you may have a white tablet or white powder in the bottle. This is to neutralize any chlorine from a chlorine flush that may have happened from a treatment plant. If you have a tablet or powder in your bottle, simply take the cap off, keep the mouth of the bottle pointed up towards the sky, and using a U-shaped motion, you're going to take your bottle to a midstream, mid-depth, and fill the bottle. Bring it out, cap it. Do not try to pour out any water. You have to have 100 ml at the fill line. If by dumping out or tapping out water you go below that, you cannot use that bottle again. It's already been contaminated. So simply fill the bottle, put the cap on it. The labs that we use are professional labs. They will be able to pipe out enough to get some airspace. Anything other than E. coli, your instructions will tell you what to do. But if we're collecting for metals or nutrients, anything like that, it will tell you to rinse the bottle 3 times and pour the water out behind you. And there may be a preservative that you add, or there may not be, but your instructions will tell you. Now that you've collected your samples, it's time to preserve them. You will need a cooler, and you will want to put an ice water slurry mix in your cooler. You want to make sure that your sample bottle is surrounded by that ice water slurry mix. It's not a bad habit to get into of placing your samples in a Ziploc bag, squeezing out the air and sealing them shut, and pushing that Ziploc bag down into the cooler, into that ice water slurry mix. That way, if for some reason that bottle should leak, it will be contained in that Ziploc bag. The sample hold time. The hold time starts the minute you collect your sample, your grab sample. That's when the clock starts ticking. You will record the time and the date that you filled your sample bottle in the top right-hand corner of your chain of custody form. Watershed Watch has a 6-hour hold time for E. coli. Anything other than E. coli, your instructions will tell you. Please make sure that you look at the acceptable hours on your instructions for the labs. Most professional labs are not open on Saturday, but our labs open to accommodate our volunteers. So please be courteous of the drop-off times. The chain of custody form is a ticket that stays with your sample from the moment you receive it in the mail until you sign it over and relinquish it either to a runner or a lab. If there's any information that is incorrect, simply draw a line through the incorrect information and record the correct information so that we can update our records. Some of the information on your chain of custody form is pre-populated. The site number, stream name, location, your basin, as well as the volunteer's name, email, and phone number, and associate ID. If any of this information is incorrect, simply draw a line through it and record the correct information. If you collect a sample for another volunteer, simply scratch out the name of that volunteer and record your name. The name of the person collecting the sample and the signature on the first relinquish by line need to match. Remember to record the time and the date you collected your sample. Record your field observations in chemistry. In the relinquish box, the sampler that collected the sample will sign their name, record the time and the date. Make sure that the person that you are giving your sample to, whether that is a runner or a lab personnel, signs the chain of custody form in front of you and records the same time and date that you relinquished the sample to them. This shows that someone was in control of this sample at all times. Runners are only provided on Saturday, so if you choose to sample on a different day, you will be responsible for delivering your sample to the lab. Your instructions will give you the name and contact information of the runner or area coordinator. Make contact with them prior to the sampling day and let them know you will be dropping your sample off to them or transporting it yourself to the lab. When you meet your runner or arrive at the lab, take a moment, make sure you have recorded everything on your chain of custody form. Make sure that the time and the date that you collected the sample are there. Also make sure that you sign your name and record the time and the date that you are relinquishing your sample. And watch your runner or the lab personnel sign the chain of custody form that they're receiving it, and make sure that they record the same time and date that you are giving them the sample. About 30 days after a sampling event, your sampling event coordinator or possibly your data manager will reach out to you via email and let you know that the sampling results are ready to be reviewed on the KGS data portal. This is the link to that data portal. Please take a few moments and go online and look at your sampling data, your field chemistry, your photographs should be there, and let us know if there's anything that you've got questions about, or maybe if you didn't see your photograph or something like that. Just make sure that you make contact with us if there's any issues. A few interpretation slides. E. coli is bacteria that lives in the intestines of warm-blooded animals, and this includes humans, that is passed through fecal matter. E. coli can enter our streams through a variety of ways. This slide shows a few of those, like filling septic systems, leaking sewage lines, animal feces in residential areas, improper maintenance of wastewater treatment plants, straight pipes, as well as Canadian geese. Swimming standards of 240 colony forming units per 100 ml of a grab sample. This is for recreation season, which is May 1st to October 31st, when people are in the water more often. Nutrients is an excess of nitrogen and phosphorus, which can cause an overgrowth of algae, which disrupts the natural process and can lead to a decrease in dissolved oxygen. Nutrients in the stream can come from agricultural fertilizer, wastewater treatment plant discharge, limestone, residential fertilizer applications, and soil runoff. Metals can impact aquatic and human life. Each metal is different and in some cases is a natural occurring in rock and soil. Metal sources in streams can come from parking lot runoff, mining, and industrial discharge. I know this slide is quite a bit wordy, however, we want you to be safe. If the water is high or at flood level, we do not want you to collect a sample. In fact, your basin may postpone the event until water levels are safe. If you wear waders, you may want to consider wearing a life vest in case you slip and fall. If you are crossing private property, you must have permission from the landowner, and this needs to happen prior to a sampling event. It is good to carry your cell phone with you. You're going to need it when you take your photograph anyway. Today there are various watertight pouches that will protect your phone if you should drop it in the stream. Even better, it's good to take a friend or a family member and show them where you're collecting a sample. The environmental safety slide. This slide is also in your little flip booklets that you will receive. If you observe an outfall, a pipe, or anything like that, that might indicate illegal pollution, take a photograph or two and then contact the Kentucky Division of Water Complaints person, and they may ask you to provide the information for your photographs, that type of thing. Your information is confidential. The bottom one is for environmental emergencies. So if you see like a broken sewage line that is pouring sewage into a waterway, for one, get out of the waterway. But you can contact the environmental response team. They are on call 24/7. This is my contact information at the Water Watch office. You can call me or email me at any time with questions, and I will help you. In the description of this video, there is a link for the quiz and participant information. Please make sure that you complete that information so that we will be able to contact you about completing the hands-on training for your field chemistry equipment. Thank you and welcome to Watershed Watch.